Imagine stepping into an Olympic arena where the spotlight isn't just on triple axels and gold medals, but on geopolitics, ethics, neutrality, and the future of an entire sport. The 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan won't just crown champions in figure skating. They will test how global sport navigates war, accountability, and the meaning of fair play. And if you think figure skating is only about artistry and jumps, today's deep dive will completely change the way you see the ice. From February 6 to 19, 2026, the world's best skaters will gather in Milan, Italy, to compete at the Forum di Milano during the Winter Games, officially known as the Milano Cortina 2026 Olympics. Medals will be awarded in men's singles, women's singles, pair skating, ice dance, and the team event. But beneath the elegance of costumes and choreography lies one of the most complex Olympic storylines in recent memory. In this episode, we are not just previewing figure skating at the Olympics. We are unpacking how global politics reshaped qualification pathways, how the concept of neutral athletes became one of the most controversial policies in modern sport, and how this could influence the competitive balance on the ice. If you are a skating fan, a sports analyst, or simply someone curious about how international events intersect with world affairs, this is your ultimate deep dive. To understand 2026, we have to rewind to 2022. Following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the International Olympic Committee, known globally as the IOC, suspended the Russian Olympic Committee. Russian and Belarusian athletes were broadly banned from international competition. For figure skating, this decision had enormous consequences. Russia had dominated the sport for years, especially in women's singles and pair skating. Removing Russian athletes from global competition didn't just change podium predictions. It reshaped the entire competitive ecosystem. The ban meant that athletes representing Russia and Belarus were excluded from events that traditionally serve as Olympic qualifiers. Federations across the world recalibrated their expectations. Skaters who once battled for bronze suddenly found themselves contenders for gold. Countries invested more heavily, sensing opportunity. But as 2026 approached, the question became unavoidable. Would Russian and Belarusian athletes remain entirely absent from the Olympic stage? The answer was more complicated than a simple yes or no. The IOC introduced a pathway for what it called individual neutral athletes, often abbreviated as AINs. Under this framework, certain athletes from Russia and Belarus could attempt to qualify for the Olympics, not under their national flags, but as neutral competitors. However, eligibility was not automatic. Each athlete had to pass a rigorous screening process designed to determine whether they had expressed support for the war or maintained contractual ties with military or national security institutions. This policy shifted the conversation from nationality to individual accountability. It was no longer just about which country you represented. It was about your personal conduct, affiliations, and public positions. In theory, the approach sought to separate athletes from state actions. In practice, it sparked intense debate. Within figure skating, two Russian skaters, Petr Gumenik and Adelia Petrosian, and Belarusian skater Victoria Safonova, earned Olympic spots under this neutral framework after meeting the required criteria. Their qualification was not merely a sporting achievement. It was a case study in how sport attempts to navigate moral complexity. Let's pause here and think strategically about what this means for 2026. First, competitive balance. Russia has historically been a powerhouse in figure skating. The absence of a full Russian team dramatically alters medal projections. In women's singles especially, Russian skaters have dominated Olympic podiums in recent cycles. A single neutral athlete cannot replicate the depth of a full national delegation. This creates opportunities for skaters from Japan, the United States, South Korea, and various European nations to step into leading roles. Second, psychological dynamics. Neutral athletes will compete without national symbols, without an anthem, and without the visible backing of their federations in the traditional sense. That changes the emotional landscape. Olympic competition is already intense. Add the weight of geopolitical controversy, and you have a unique pressure environment? How will these athletes manage being viewed not just as competitors, but as political symbols? Third, the team event becomes especially fascinating. The Olympic team event in figure skating requires depth across disciplines. Without a full Russian squad competing under its flag, the structure of medal contention shifts significantly. Countries that previously battled for silver or bronze may now realistically aim for gold. This is not merely speculation. Olympic history shows that when a dominant program is removed or weakened, the ripple effects extend across every segment of competition. Now let's dig deeper into the ethical dimension, because this is where the 2026 narrative truly evolves beyond sport. The concept of neutrality in the Olympics is not new. The Games have long promoted the idea that sport can transcend politics. But in reality, the Olympics have always been intertwined with global events. The difference in 2026 is the individualized scrutiny. Athletes are being assessed not just on anti-doping compliance or technical eligibility, but on perceived alignment with national actions. This raises challenging questions. Can an athlete truly be separated from their country's political context? Is individual neutrality a fair compromise? Or does it place athletes in an impossible position? And how do governing bodies ensure consistent, transparent standards when making these determinations? For viewers, understanding these layers adds depth to every performance. When a skater steps onto Olympic ice in Milan, they are not only executing technical elements, they are performing within a broader narrative of resilience, controversy, and adaptation. Let's shift to the venue itself. Milan, a city globally recognized for fashion, design, and culture, will host figure skating at the Forum di Milano. Italy has a rich skating history, particularly in ice dance. Hosting the Games provides a unique opportunity for European audiences to engage deeply with the sport. Home ice energy can influence judging perception, crowd response, and athlete adrenaline. While Olympic judging systems are designed to be objective, performance components are inherently influenced by atmosphere and interpretation. From a strategic viewing perspective, 2026 could become a turning point for figure skating's global image. The sport has faced scrutiny in recent years over judging controversies and doping scandals. A well-executed Olympic event, combined with transparent eligibility decisions and compelling storytelling, could restore broader public trust. Conversely, any perceived inconsistency could amplify criticism. Now let's consider the athletes outside the controversy. For skaters from countries unaffected by suspension policies, 2026 represents both opportunity and pressure. When a dominant rival is partially absent, expectations rise. Athletes who may have previously aimed for top 5 finishes now face the psychological shift of being labeled medal favorites. That transition is not trivial. Competing as an underdog is fundamentally different from competing as the one expected to win. In pairs skating and ice dance, where technical precision and partnership chemistry are paramount, stability often determines outcomes. Programs that have matured over an entire Olympic cycle may have an edge over newly reconfigured teams from federations adjusting to geopolitical shifts. Consistency, injury management, and mental resilience will likely define the podium more than raw technical ambition. Looking ahead, one of the most transformative aspects of 2026 is how qualification pathways themselves may evolve. The Skate to Milano qualification event, used as a mechanism for neutral athletes to earn spots, represents an experimental model. If successful, it could become a blueprint for future scenarios where international conflicts impact participation. If problematic, it may trigger calls for reform in how the Olympic movement balances inclusivity and accountability. For content creators, analysts, and fans, the key takeaway is this: do not frame Milan 2026 as simply another Olympic figure skating competition. Frame it as a case study in how sport adapts under pressure. Frame it as a human story about athletes navigating circumstances beyond their control. Frame it as a strategic shift in global competitive dynamics. When the first notes of music echo through the arena in February 2026, viewers who understand this deeper context will experience the performances differently. A clean program will represent not just technical mastery, but stability in uncertain times. A medal ceremony will symbolize not only victory, but the outcome of years shaped by unprecedented disruption. As we approach the Games, expect conversations to intensify. Expect debates about fairness and neutrality. Expect emotional reactions from fans on all sides. But also expect moments of extraordinary athletic brilliance. Because regardless of politics, the ice demands precision. It demands courage. And it rewards those who can balance artistry with discipline under the brightest lights in sport. If you want to follow Milan 2026 like an insider, pay attention not only to scores, but to context. Listen to how commentators frame neutral athletes. Watch how federations position their contenders. Observe how the crowd responds. These subtle dynamics will shape the narrative as much as any quadruple jump. In the end, the 2026 Olympic figure skating events in Milan will be remembered for more than medal counts. They will be remembered as a moment when the Olympic movement confronted a defining challenge. A moment when individual athletes carried the weight of global events onto a sheet of ice. And a moment when the world watched to see whether sport could, even imperfectly, rise above division. So as we count down to February 6, 2026, keep your eyes not only on the jumps and spins, but on the larger story unfolding beneath them. Because in Milan, every glide across the ice will reflect a chapter in the evolving relationship between sport, identity, and the world stage. And when the final medal is awarded on February 19, the legacy of these games may extend far beyond the podium.